as they say in the business.
Okay, I'm ready for the media res.
We're in the res. It's there. We're live. I pushed.
We're in the res now.
It's me and you, David Armano, Chris Brogan. It has been, I don't know how many years. There might even have been a 0 in front of the third digit of this.
Probably.
Because Chicago in like 09 or something.
Last time I saw you in person, Chris, I don't know where it was, but I came by. You were speaking in New York. I think this may have been the last time. You may or may not remember this. And I walked up to the front row, and you and I talked about design, and we talked about intentionality, and that was an intentional act. It was not a big deal for me to show up, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to come and I'm going to support Chris, and I'm going to go up to the front. And I don't think I was there for the whole time. I think I was there for maybe a third or maybe a half of the talk. And you saw me.
Yes.
And I thought, that's it. You know,
that's all I needed to do.
I got to listen to him, and he saw that I showed up, and I was genuine in wanting to support you. That's all.
So I have learned that over the years from so many of our mutual friends who have taught me that, you know, it really says a lot when you show up and get in the front row so that people can see, you know, what's going on and all that sort of a thing. And it was not my normal, stance. I want to name drop a story real quick because it illustrates this directly. First time meeting Seth Godin in person, which is like, you know, oh, look, God has landed. I will now sit and meet with my God now. I meet him at this live event and we get lunch together. We go to this meeting together. It's pretty wild. And then right from the meeting, it's going to be Seth's speech. And I realize I'm walking with Seth towards kind of the front of the stage. And I go, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. Now he's like getting ready to walk right onto the stage. And I kind of grab him like a little kid does and pull on his collar. And I said, Seth, I get really anxious in crowds and I get really ADD like, and I cannot possibly sit through your whole speech. I'm going to leave a few different times. I don't want you to think I'm leaving because I don't like your speech. And he goes, oh, I totally do that same thing. And I was like, oh, thank you, Buddha. Because I thought I was going to make the guy really upset. So that's my story. Like you showing up to the front nicely and intentionally, only my panicky idiot Brogan one.
You need to be, we can talk about that. You need to be a little kinder to yourself, Chris. And we can get into that if you want. Or don't want. Whatever. I'm here for you. Or, you know, we can sing songs together.
We can sing songs. David, you are, for 11 years, you have been synonymous with one of the only cool things going on at Edelman. We have a few other humans like that. But Edelman, Armano, that was a thing for 11 years, and that has come to a close. Thank you, yep. Apocalypse.
Yeah, it took an apocalypse to take me down, Chris. It took a pandemic to get me.
Reflect on this, David. Harold. Reflect. Yeah. What happened? Tell me.
Well, listen, I mean, 11 years is a great run with a great company, and I did great work. I mean, I helped architect and build their digital practice. I helped create their revenue stream for community management in the early years, and we're talking millions of dollars. I evolved from coming in as a, you know, back then they were like, oh, and I was obviously much more than a social media professional, but they were like, we need more social media in our company, and that's how I started with them.
Right.
I'm a strategist. I was a digital strategist. I've evolved into more of a brand and business strategist in my 11 years there, or matured. I think I was always those things, to be honest with you. I just matured in them.
Can you, I want to stop you there for a second, because when you got involved in social, you know, this is like OG week anyway. I had Jason Falls. I had,
oh, that is OG.
Justin Levy, you know, I've got you. It's interesting because there were those of us who went, gee whiz, social's cool. And there are those of us who said, there's some real business value here. And if we can really get companies to take it on, you've always been a serious guy. When people meet you at social events, they would never believe that. You've always been a really serious business guy. How did you get people to kind of curve back around and realize this wasn't something their niece and nephew were supposed to do?
Okay, so I'll address that in 2 points. So first, for the serious business guy, I mean, I went to design school and art school, I went to Pratt, which is a really good design school. So I didn't learn business there, but I did learn business in the business world. And so but I learned it like a designer learns things, which is you immerse yourself and you study and you do. It's not academic. And the way a designer approaches things is not academic, it's experiential. And so, how I got to answer your question directly, how I got people to bring it back to business. I mean, Chris, it goes back to the beginning of my career. To be honest with you, I started in the sort of .com days, and it was just, oh well, this is the next .com. It was that simple. It was, since I lived and worked through that economy. Now this is an iteration of it, and in the early days, we talked about it as Web 2.0, and social is a part of that, and that was short-lived in many ways. But the spirit of that was accurate in that it was the next iteration of the web, and you had things like websites being developed in a totally different way, in an agile way. You had social emerging onto the scene. You had a couple years after that, mobile and app, which was like, I mean, a massive revolution. So uh, to me, it seemed like a repetition of a pattern. And to be honest with you, if I was a really smart business person, I would have invested better, because I
Sure.
I benefited professionally, and I kick myself for not investing better. But you can't win them all.
Your design passion, we never talked much about this. I mean, I think I've always appreciated your design skill. We never talked much about it because some of the early guys that I was following in like 2002, 3, 4, and 5, before this all got even more crazy, were guys like Dave Gray from Explain, and the guys at IDEO and some of those people. And I was really into Malik's magazine, Red Herring and all that. And I thought that there was just so much cool stuff going on. I was a Fast Company and those sorts of guys mag. You, I presume, have some of that DNA in you as well. What were those meetings like compared to banners, banners, banners? Because I've got to imagine it was just a really strange bringing you in. Besides the rock star element, it must have been very strange to have you lay it out a different way as a design guy.
Awesome question. So first of all, everybody was talking about joining the conversation, which is great, and we can get back to like what I've experienced with this job loss is exactly like the community that we talked about. We can get into that, but like that community that we talked about in the early years. But when I would talk to people on the business front, I would reference things like banners and how activity and attention was shifting into things like news feeds, right? So it went into human behavior, and part of my approach as a designer is to study human behavior and then to participate in it as an early adopter. So a lot of it was explaining the behavior and saying like, look, this is where people's attention is going. They're shifting to the news feeds. Like the banners and the display advertising is not going to be how they actually get your messages. So it was explaining to them that the plumbing was changing. And then, once like everyone got religion on that, um, it would then move into like, now that you understand that the plumbing has changed, that the attention is going there, now you have to figure out how to scale this, and then you have to figure out how to integrate it, and you have to figure out how to measure it and assign KPIs. I mean, so like that journey, and it moved pretty quickly, because I will say that all matured in about 5 years, right? I mean, it wasn't like it wasn't overnight, but to go from it like operating at scale to where it's like, this is a part of our integrated marketing mix, and millions of dollars are now going to flow on these pipes that I just talked to you about. Yeah, 5 years is not too shabby for that transformation to happen.
It's a lot. And in that process, of course, things are changing as fast as ever possible. It's every single piece of this is just flowing like crazy. The thought that I had while you were saying that too is, we should explain to people what your setup is right now, because it's interesting in and of itself in the evolution of all the stuff that we've done, professionally, and that you've had to bring to brands. You are on an iPad Pro right now. You're on a tablet, which were cute things to give senior citizens for a while.
Right.
And now you're using it like a power device. Can you talk about that?
Yeah. I have. So, again, intentional act. And I'll use this as a visual prop. My sabbatical before like the world went nuts. And what I did was, for my sabbatical, I had a month off. And as part of that, I spent some time doing things outside at home, whatever. But I drove out to Arizona and I followed Route 66 for much of that. And so I wanted to have a tool where I could like journal, and I didn't want to take a laptop. I want to be able to get on the internet and sort of do laptopy things, but not have the distraction of like actually like sitting somewhere. And I really wanted to journal and write and sketch and do things like that. So I got an iPad Pro. It has a tablet. I got the small one, specifically the smaller one, so I could be on planes because I would travel a lot during my job. So I wanted to have something compact as well. And it's a really powerful tool. I mean, the thing about the iPad Pro is that it doesn't bog down. It's fast. The apps, so many of them work. You can write, you can design, you can edit video, you can do so many different things. And right now I'm without a work computer, and so I'm using it for everything right now. I mean, for all my correspondences, for my resume updating, for my website updating, for this, I have it turned on its side right now. So Chris and I were talking about how like it's vertical, but that's where the camera works better for eye contact. Otherwise, it's on its side. It's a little, so it's not perfect, but it's a great thing right now to not have a company high-powered Mac Pro laptop, and I'm getting by.
It's amazing to see it. When we talked about that, one of the things you pointed out though is that some websites aren't doing the thing that they're supposed to do. We weren't sure that the StreamYard app was going to work okay on it. It's interesting that in 2020, that for as much as we keep telling people to design websites to be mobile first, that must have been in a lot of your strategy meetings.
Oh, absolutely. And I that was one of the things I preached, is that for client work, and you'll even see like examples on the website if you look at some of the work, like always mobile first. And Carol, yes, you can sketch. If you ever do the iPad Pro, there's a film that you can buy for it that has a texture that mimics paper. And that is the only way I'd recommend it, because without that, the pencil on glass is not fun. So you got to get this layer, and you can find it on Amazon. Sorry, Chris. We're trying to be interactive here. That's the medium.
Oh,
right?
Mobile first. We were talking mobile first, but no, the point of doing this is to interact. Like these people don't, they don't show up to be the background. They're the storyline. So
mobile first, and the thing about mobile first is that it's actually, I mean, with the responsive design, to go back to the design thing, like you can do that. I know that Mark Zuckerberg and Facebook get a lot of flack, and it's understandable. I get all that. But one of the smarter things that they did, I remember having debates with colleagues of mine who were really arrogant. And when Facebook was primarily desktop, they're like, and they were big back then. I remember peers of mine saying like, it's too late for Facebook. They're not going to be able to pivot. And they pivoted the fuck out of that whole thing. And they, Mark Zuckerberg, to his credit, was like mobile first. I mean, I want, for the time being, I want my developers developing on mobile, and it's all mobile first, because he understood that's what needed to be done.
Yeah, I did not anticipate the whole Instagram, WhatsApp, and everything else buying spree that happened. But that definitely was a way to get that handled. That definitely changed the storyline a little bit for what they did. And I'm sort of on the fence right now about Facebook, not even because of their weird political problems, just because, I don't know, I have some misgivings, but I would say that they most definitely are, you can't call him a slouch. He continues, he and the team continue to design. They continue to really work like this is a living product that's going to be around for a while. I'd have a hard time thinking of other apps/platforms that are acting as rapidly as they are. Who do you kind of put in that same pantheon?
I think actually, to be honest with you, I think they were one of the pioneers. But I think when you look at like the Ubers of the world and the Airbnbs in the world, and a lot of these app-based companies, I think they've all gotten pretty good at it. I just think Facebook was one of. I think Facebook was one of the first, and to do it at that scale was impressive. So I don't think that sort of iterative update is all that unique anymore. I almost think it's sort of now, especially for these sort of Silicon Valley type offerings. I don't think it's all that unique. But I do want to spend a half a second on Facebook since we brought it up.
Yeah.
And I see a lot of our peers that I'll kindly give a shout out to Scott Monty, who rightfully so are like really kind of dishing it out to Facebook, and with good reason. I mean, look at where the country is, and the role they play is really critical. But I got to tell you, as someone who lost a job and have 350 and counting comments of support and messages coming in with like, hey, you want to talk? this is a platform that is connected deeply to my life and my future, and I'm rooting for them. I need them to do better. I need them to be there in the future. Personally, I know some people have gotten off Facebook, but and I know I'm not alone in this. And obviously, Facebook, the company is bigger than that single platform. But these platforms are very critical. I think one of the key issues is that we need a government that can talk tech. We don't have tech literacy in the government, so they don't even know what to do with these companies. That's a bigger problem. So we get that solved, and things will, because there is regulation needed. But you know what? Until the government can get some tech literacy, I almost am like, well, that's on hold until that gets solved.
That's an interesting perspective. I like that. I like the concept, just that, it could be. We'll just hold off on that part because there's
right.
just too many messes. We're not
No,
going to
pick this up. You're like, let's talk about lighter things.
What? No, it's funny. When I had Jason fall, oh, thanks, animal. See, the animal I don't like, Armano.
Was that a butt? Was that a drive-by butt?
She just flung her tail right up and over the lens. I didn't even know she knew there's a camera there, but she's like, I know everything, bitch. And I don't understand you, creature. Listen, with levity, it was funny. I had Jason Falls on. The show was dead serious for most of the show. We told one really, really funny story. I do have a thought about levity, because the last time, besides that New York time, because I had forgotten about that New York time, the last time before that was in Chicago, and you and I both have an appreciation for karaoke.
I knew where you were going.
You knew it ahead of time.
Oh, here we go.
Cat anus.
Hold on, I need to screen grab.
Look, she turned around. So
hold on, I need to do this. This has to be documented. Let's see if I can get it. Yes.
Anyone wants a free cat?
Screen grab is complete.
There's the anus again. The way that David announced his job loss with his new position was brilliant. Absolutely. Well, and look, Sharif says amen to tech literacy in government.
Hey, Sharif.
Stop. I'm not interested.
This is fantastic.
What's your current go-to karaoke song? You and I go out tonight. We get a couple of beverages. We decide it's karaoke night. What happens?
I think it might have to be, hold on a second. It's Billy Joel. And it's probably You May Be Right. You may be right. I may be crazy. Oh, but it just might take the lunatic you're looking for.
Singing live on the show, David Armano. If I only had a tambourine.
I have nothing to lose, Chris. I'm a man without a country.
I hear it. I love it. Well, I don't think you always acted especially like you had a country back when you had one. So. I did. I think, I knew when to dial up that I'm not fully representing, but I think when I was representing. You don't have to answer this question, but I know you probably will. How bad have you ever been slapped for being you, and kind of crossing some line somewhere, and then you kind of had to pull it back just a tiny, tiny bit?
Not too many times. I would say in my 11-year career, I probably got reached out to. Honestly, I might be able to count them on one hand. Not too many times, and I'll give you an example. Do you remember Periscope before Twitter had acquired them?
I do.
Okay, so this is back at a time where there was a lot of terrorism happening in other countries, and even some instances in our country. And so I was doing a live stream, and I had some people jumping on that were really freaky. It freaked me out, and saying crazy Al Qaeda type stuff.
Wow.
I knew people at Adweek, and they were they wanted me to tell that story. So I wrote about it, and then I got reined in. Hey, there's just certain things that we don't talk about, and that's one of them. So not outlandish, but I was I really didn't know and whatever. So I had a couple of those conversations, but honestly, very few. And I think, again, to go back to the unofficial theme of intentionality, I knew that having this position would mean that I needed to filter things, not in a way that would where I wouldn't be me, but in a way where it's like, I'm not going to say that about a company that could be a client, or I'm not going to say that, like, I'm not going to dig at, a competitor of a client. Like, there's just certain things that in that business, you just have to like really know, especially when you have a following.
Right. It's, it's never a super awesome time to head out the door, and it's obviously in the middle of a pandemic is the reason why, but also not a great time. But it was funny because I was thinking about, it's interesting timing because the world needs you more than ever as a strategist, because here we are we go right from not really being finished with one major disaster film, and we decide, well, nobody decides. Timing happens. George Floyd gets murdered. We reignite the whole Black Lives Matter protest storyline, and it takes off in a way that it didn't the last few times that it went out there.
Yeah.
And now it is a force, and we're seeing many millions of dollars shift. Watching Glass from CrossFit get pushed out the door faster than Jimmy what's his face's pizza. It's incredible this time around, and all rightly so. And we also saw the incredible wave of white on black text logo at the bottom. We like black people now graphic show up, and as a sort of punch stamp of we're in this, right? But I feel like if I hired David Armano right now to give me some strategy, you wouldn't let him off so easily. And I feel like you would be a good guide. Are you champing at the bit to get your hands on helping somebody with some strategy through this interesting time?
Okay. Such a good question. No, I'll tell you why. Were you expecting that answer? You were like teaming up for something else, right? No,
I just wanted you to be like, yes, I want to tell everyone how to do this better.
I am not.
Always
Absolutely
David
not.
Armano.
I'll tell you why. And I updated my so I updated my profile on LinkedIn as Chief Pause Officer at Taking a Moment, and I was very transparent in my description. COVID-19 basically ended my 11 years, and I'm taking a break. That's the paraphrase version of it. And I did it for a couple of reasons. One, I'm signaling to people that I need a fucking break. I have been working my ass off doing everything you just said very diligently, and I need a break in a healthy way. Not like I'm not feeling burnt out. I'm actually like the juices are off the charts. But I'm that energy now is going to me. That's not going to a client. I'm reinvesting. I'm doubling down on me. My brain is so sharp right now, and I'm not directing that towards. I actually need to get back to a friend of mine who asked me to do contract work. He's a good friend, and like I had that temptation of wanting to help him. I'm gonna get back to him and tell him no. And so the other reason why I did that was it bothers me, and I think it sends the wrong symbol when people, there's a stigma with a job loss. And look, I have the luxury, and I'm very aware of this, Chris. Like I got let go in the best way. Like people know that, okay, here's a guy who's probably paid a lot, and it's really tough times out there, and there's nothing wrong with that, and I don't hold it against my former employer, and it is life. So I take no shame in it. And so I was not going to let it sit on my LinkedIn like I still worked in. A lot of people in my position, executives, they have a fear about that, right? They don't want to send that signal that they're actually on the bench. I don't look at it like that. So I did that with intent, and I'm saying no to you with intent because that's how I'm looking at it. And I'm being very honest. I'm letting people know that I'm taking a break. I'm doing things like this. I'm entertaining conversations. Like I'm having some interesting ones. I need to slow down. I was going at breakneck speed, client work for the company, on airplanes, with teams, you name it. So much of my energy went into other things that I now have to take a moment and redirect it toward myself.
That was the best no I've ever had in the show. That was the one. I think if there's ever a highlight reel of the show, which there never will be, that would make it just for the no. This is the most behaved this creature has ever been. So
I wanted to comment on that because what she's doing is the most cat thing ever. They're such little stalkers. They just watch you. They're like these little professional stalkers.
And she's saying to us, I don't need you. I'm just observing.
Hey, can I thank you for asking that question? And
Yeah.
in terms of, I mentioned you need to be kind to yourself. You're a good interviewer, and that was a really good question to ask, and I appreciate it.
Well, thank you. I will absolutely eat that cookie. I want to know then, when you said you're reinvesting in yourself, which is exciting, and you said juices, which is exciting. Is this kind of brand David kind of thing, or do you like legit mean you're just like drinking beers with your feet in the kiddie pool and watching lots of bad television or something? What's it's got to be going somewhere. Is it really not going anywhere? No, this is what Carol asked you. Carol said you find it hard to slow down. That's what we're asking, the same question.
No. I have a really healthy balance of working hard and doing things that are pretty good for me. It sucks. I used to go to the gym, when that was in, so I don't have that as much anymore. And kettlebells kind of not really cutting it. But I walk. It's summer now. I go on my motorcycle. That's awesome. Like
Nice.
brain cleanser, mountain bike. I have a lot of, I guess, hobbies, or enough hobbies. I have enough that balance out the sort of how I throw myself into my work, and I enjoy them. And I also, like, so much of my energy goes into my boys, my fiance. Those are like huge parts of my life. So I don't find it hard to slow down because I have so many of those other things, and I know my priorities. But in terms of where this is going, yeah, I know where I want it to go, but I know if it doesn't go in that direction, I'll pivot. I want to find my tribe. And
Seems like it's time.
Yep, I want to find my tribe. I want to find the people that are like, we get you, David. You're this like weird strategist hybrid. You're a CMO whisperer. You can go toe to toe with a CEO, X, Y, and Z. And like, you believe in values of a company. You understand digital. You understand how digital evolves. You understand how culture is changing and shifting and evolving. You track those trends. You understand how they translate into business evolution. We're building a tribe of that. We built a tribe of that. We want you to be a part of that. So that's what I want, and I'll know it when I find it. And then if I don't, I will. I have a backup plan, and then I'll pull the trigger on that.
I do not know the answer to this question, especially based on what you just said, but I cannot fathom you working for one brand unless it was some brand that you have a tattoo on. Here we go again. I can't imagine you working for any one brand unless you had a tattoo already about them.
Well, don't forget, when you work for companies, not unlike Element, and I don't know if I want to stay in the agency space, but don't forget, companies have customers and clients. So you're never working for one brand.
Sure.
Right? You're working usually, like, everyone's got a client. Everyone's got a customer.
But that's what I mean. Like, I can't fathom you going to become, Armano at JetBlue. Like, I can't see it. I can't see you picking, Smithfield Pork, and then that's you for the rest of, 5 years.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I mean, if it was the right in-house, there's a couple, I think, that could be right, but there's probably, look, I will say I'm not prioritizing agency, but I'm not ruling it out. Sure. I'm also not prioritizing in-house brand, but I'm also not ruling it out. But there's enterprise tech, which is very appealing to me.
Yes.
Okay, so I'll leave it at that.
There's a lot of good people over in that land of enterprise tech. Okay, I could see that. I could see that. All right, I have one last question, and then I'll let you be. And it's not an especially poignant question. It's just, you're so intentional. What is like the most ridiculous thing since this whole pandemic? What is like the weirdest thing you found yourself doing more than once that in no way fits the Armano we would know and love? Like, you're not making sourdough bread or jigsaw puzzles. No, I just can't see it.
No, but I am human, and I fall short of. I mean, while I am intentional in a lot of ways, I've done impulsive things. I mean, I own land in Mexico, and I'm like, can I do that? I mean, it's in a beautiful place, but I'm not sure. I mean, I look back, I'm like, what the hell did I just do? And like, it'd be awesome to have that money right now, but hey, I got a chunk of land in Mexico by the ocean. So that was like a bit of a in the moment thing. I would say the thing that I sometimes, and I'm working on this, and everybody, including you, Chris, probably deals with this. The overexposure to social news feeds, and like like maybe when you're overstimulated, and I call it the I have a name for it. It's like oh, and I'm forgetting the name I came up for tonight. But you're kind of doing that like that aimless scrolling, right? And you're flicking through, and you're not getting any value out of it, and it's not exercising any part of your brain. That's probably the most unintentional thing I could think of. I found myself doing a lot of it. You get caught up into all this stuff out there. It's not good for you. I have good days and bad days. I think it's, in the grand scheme of things, I think I've got a decent amount of control over it. But it's every once in a while I get caught up. Oh, scroll masturbation. Wow. Yeah.
You can have that one. It's free. So like I could ever give you an idea. But
in someone's Facebook feed right now, that just went flying by, and someone's like, "Whoa!" So actually, you know what? Someone was doing that. They were scroll debating.
That's why they saw it. We've all done it though. We've all gotten to the sort of back of the phone book, so to speak, and like refreshed a few more times just in case. Anything?
Oh, I know what it is. I call it the scroll hole. You fall into the scroll hole.
Yep.
That's what I call it.
I'm with you. I like it. You might see some scroll holes if you scroll through bait. I can see this. We'll just end it on a bad note. That's what we'll do. David Armano, I think
we started this so honorably.
It was so really grown up. But you know what? This is the bonus reel for whoever actually made it through 32 minutes. So that's all I can tell you.
All right.
David, thank you so much for being here.
Great to talk to you. Seriously. It was a lot of fun.
It was the best. It was catching up. So thanks so much for being part of it. It means the world. Thank you for delivering a new term to our language, our lexicon, a scroll hole.
Scroll hole. Yeah. Don't fall into the scroll hole, kids. Don't do it. And don't.
We're going to get out of here. People can go other places, just not here. Thank you so much, David, again.